Hi everyone, I'm Jack the Rambling Raconteur, and I hope that you're doing well. I wanted to share a few thoughts about March of the Mammoths. The announcement videos from Jason and Old Blues Chapter and Verse and Alex over at Big Owl Books went up this week, and then Mark at Book Time with Elvis did this fantastic video in which he uses my preferred nomenclature, the Mammoth Hunt, and he gives all sorts of tips and suggestions for readers who are about to embark on a month-long journey with a really long book, and hopefully a really good book. And of course, he's encouraging readers to pursue that mammoth, hunt it down, devour its contents. And as I was enjoying all of these videos, I realized there was one suggestion I wasn't hearing. And so I want to share that. I want to reinforce two ideas that have been in a couple of these other videos that are such delights. And then, of course, I want to share my own plans, because as we've been unpacking in the aftermath of this remodel, I've been setting aside a few volumes. I've been scouting a mammoth herd and figuring out which one might be worth pursuing. So I'd like some feedback at the end here. But first, the suggestion, and that is this. If you're about to embark on a month-long mammoth hunt, you want to know the terrain. You want to feel confident in that space that you're operating in. And that's why I'm sitting in this chair. This is my reading chair. I absolutely love reading in this space. I have a nice footstool that goes with it, and I read in this room. And that is to say, make sure you have a comfortable chair that you're reading in if you're going to read 800 pages. My goodness. And the corollary to that is you don't have to change your reading routine. This isn't about reading faster or reading for larger amounts of time, reading more on the weekends in order to power through 800 pages in 1 month. It's just about refocusing, dedicating the time that we usually read just towards a longer work. And the next step from that is to reinforce what Jason was saying, which is you don't have to finish this book by March 31st. I always like to note that many of those long 19th century classical novels that are extraordinarily long were not published as one big book for the readers of the 19th century to sit down and tear into over the course of 2 or 3 or 4 weeks. They were often serialized. They were published in installments. Readers spent time reading that work when it was initially published. And so in a sense, if we take a similar amount of time to read the book, we're just recreating that experience in the sense of when the work was originally written and published. So that's an approach I've taken before. When I read Les Miserables, I read about 100 pages a week for 13 weeks. Finished it 5 years ago this past week. I know because I finished it on the day that someone in my family was born. But it was a wonderful experience to savor. So you don't have to finish this book by March 31st. Just explore it. Get to know the characters. Find out what's going on, or get to know the history or the ideas within the work if it's nonfiction. So the final suggestion I have, and sort of idea to reinforce again, is it's okay to pivot. If you're out hunting and you see a mammoth herd and you start pursuing something but realize, wait a second, that's the one I actually want to go after, it's okay. Doesn't matter that you've only read 50 pages, or maybe you've read 150 pages or 250 pages in a book. It's okay to set it aside, to come back to it later, or to come back to it in 5 or 6 years and just go chase something else. That's fine. The reading should be fun. It should be a delight. So now on to my own plans. The first is a book that I have been dipping into. It's one that I have really been enjoying, and it's really the perfect type of work to just build on all those ideas I was reinforcing. It is the Outlaws of the Marsh, aka the Water Margin, aka I believe All Men Are Brothers. It is a classic Chinese novel. It is about 2,000 pages long. So yeah, it's a mammoth. But the way it's written across the course of, depending on the version, 75 or 100 or 120 chapters, is each chapter ends on a cliffhanger. It's almost like this, I believe, 14th century? Yeah, 14th century novel that is set up as like truly a serial from like the 1950s or the 1960s, where every chapter ends with this cliffhanger, and then it goes, and what happened next, dear reader? This fight that was about to start, what occurred? Or who was it that accosted these people on the highway? Read our next chapter, dear reader. And so it's almost built for you to just dip in and out of, to spend time with. And this has been an extraordinary work so far. It was written by Shi Nian or Luo Guanzhong. And this translation is by Sydney Shapiro. And I've read about a third of it so far, and I've really been enjoying it. I'm going to be continuing to read it. I don't know that I'm going to finish it in March, but I am really enjoying this work. And if you've ever read it, please let me know. Which translation did you read? Again, I'm really enjoying this. The second one that I will certainly be reading, though again, I don't know that I'm going to finish it. This is really a reread for me, is the Shahnameh by Abolqasem Ferdowsi. And that's because I'm working towards wanting to make a video in which I talk about Persian classics, Persian poetry. And this work is an absolute masterpiece. I mentioned it about 2 years ago a couple of times, and it's a work that I have really grown to appreciate, the depth, the characterization, the imagery, so many ideas that are in this work. It is a foundational text for the Persian classics. And so I'm spending time with it. I don't know that I'm going to read the entire thing in March, but again, I'm going to be spending time with this mammoth. And now for the one that I'll start sort of on March 1st and see what happens. And it's likely going to be this work, Kin, by Miljenko Jergović, who was writing in Croatia. He was born in Sarajevo in Bosnia, but he then later emigrated back to Croatia, or to Croatia, where his parents had been from. And this is this massive, I think it's 1,200 pages long. Let's see, I think it's about 1,200 pages long work. Oh no, it's only in the 800, it's about 900 pages long. It's about 900 pages long, and it is a work basically covering the 20th century in the Balkans. It seems very, very interesting. I've heard some really good things about it. And so this is sort of the one that I've checked out from the library. I'm planning to start and see what happens. But life could change. You know, another one that I've been thinking about is sort of a mammoth, in the sense that if you look at the full Septology, I believe it surpasses 800 pages. The first volume, the other name, is only like 300. But this is the work from Jan Fosse that a lot of folks have been saying they absolutely love. Brian over at Bookish has mentioned it, Celia has mentioned it, and numerous other readers have talked about how just incredible this work is. So I'm very seriously considering trying this out. And if we think of Septology as a full work, then that would sort of account for a mammoth. Probably not this year, but I've been, again, I'm considering, would be the great Kristin Lavransdattir by Sigrid Undset. This is a massive work. I think this is the one that's probably 1,200 pages. Yeah, this is 1,100 pages long. Curiously set, I believe, in the 14th century in Norway, not China, the way that Outlaws of the Marsh is. But I'm thinking about this one. And perhaps if you have a very strong opinion, if you have any experience with one of those, let me know. Another one that some folks have been talking about, on and off, and there's a little bird who keeps tweeting at me on Voxer about this, but that would be the great Miss Macintosh, My Darling by Marguerite Young. And I know Dalkey Archive is supposed to be re-releasing this sometime before, George R.R. Martin publishes The Winds of Winter. But I happen to be one of the lucky ones who found this at a used bookstore one time, and I'm curious to read it. I've read passages from it and thought, wow, that was really interesting. That it's very maximalist, but we'll see. Possibly, this would be a deep pivot, because I'm probably not going to do this, but this would be like the deepest of the pivots would be to continue working on The Count of Monte Cristo by Alexandre Dumas. This is a reread. This is a different translation from what I had read. This is the translation by Robin Buss, and I've really enjoyed what I've read from this translation. I don't think this is going to be the one I go after, but who knows? And then finally, I have a nonfiction book that I've been reading that is, again, 1,000 pages, 1,150 pages. And I'm not going to finish it in March. I'm kind of spending this year reading it. That is Christianity, The First 3,000 Years by Diarmid MacCulloch. And I've learned a huge amount from this book, good and bad history. But I've learned a huge amount from this book. It's a work that has sent me off to read, primary sources, other secondary sources as I've been reading it. And so that's always a great thing, is sort of the different journeys, the byways that we travel on our mammoth hunt. And this has been one that, is going to be sort of a 2023 journey for me, not just March. But let me know, again, if you have a strong opinion about Kristin Lavransdattir or Septology, or even Kin, although Kin is one that I'm leaning towards, or even Miss Macintosh, My Darling. Please let me know. Let me know what you're reading. And again, I hope you have a comfortable, confident mammoth hunt. Have a good one, everyone. Thanks.